These are the facts, not put out by mainstream media. If you want to know the truth, we put out the truth every single day, Monday to Friday. Saturdays and Sundays, we spend with our families, as we should do. So if you want to know the truth, come to charlieward.com and see real news daily. And join the Insiders Club, which is live on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Noble Gold for those that are based in America and Canada. And for those in the UK and Europe, we have Orvesta. Get yours now. charlies.gold.
Hi guys, today I've got Micah here from Noble Gold. And of course, we've been promoting it over the last year or so. And for me, we've been promoting it for 6 years to buy gold and silver because the world is in turmoil. And while the world's in turmoil, the safest place to put your money is into physical metals. That's been the same script for 100 years. Nothing has changed. The only thing that's really changed at the moment is the fact that when gold and silver are going up and stocks and shares are going up, that tells you something is very, very uncertain. But given the choice of either gold or silver or stocks and shares, I chose personally gold and silver. And Micah here is part of the Noble team who has tremendous experience in the gold and silver world. And it's a real pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
And to share your expertise. Great to see you, Micah.
Thank you so much, Charlie. And just right out of the gate, we appreciate you, your platform, your audience members so much. I already have several of them that have become my clients. So they're fantastic. They're educated about what's going on better than most. And actually, they're some of my kind of most intelligent clients. So thank you very much for the work that you do and the program that you have and your listeners for supporting you and us. And I really like one of the things you just said, which is gold and silver and stocks moving up. Take your pick. It's a little bit of a bad omen to have gold making all-time highs alongside a stock market that's making all-time highs, because historically they're counter-cyclical assets, right? So when stocks are down and you need a safe haven asset, gold surges because everybody wants safety. And of course, they've been the safest asset to own for thousands of years. And one of the last times, other than right now, that we actually had an all-time high in stocks alongside an all-time high in gold was, guess when? 2008. 2008, right before the global financial crisis. And it's kind of a factor of smart money, the insiders who know what happens next, the people who write the scripts, and kind of have an understanding of market cycles and what's going on behind the scenes. They have been actively rotating out of stocks and into gold for the better part of the last 2 years, like they did from 2006, 7, and 8. And so what happened in 2008 was gold at an all-time high, stocks at an all-time high. It didn't happen right away, but stocks eventually fell by over 50% from October of 08 through the bottom in 09. And what happened to gold was, sure, a little bit of turbulence and a little bit of a shakeout, margin calls and those types of things at first. But then gold tripled in 3 years. The following 3 years, and silver 8.5 times from 2008 to 2011. So that period from 08 to 2011, when everyone's losing their shirts in the stock market and they're rotating into the better, safer asset class, it's such a small market. Gold is actually tiny and silver is even smaller. When you have the floodgates of capital of people rushing out of stocks and into metals to save themselves, well, that's what explodes the price higher. So have we had a great run in gold? Yeah. My clients from 3, 4, 5 years ago have made a lot of money. And in silver, the last year or so has been fantastic, but we haven't really even seen a major rotation of capital yet. And that won't happen until the stock market crashes, which, anybody's guess. I know they're doing a lot to keep it afloat, midterms and stuff this year, sure. But I think maybe in the next year or so, we see an 08 type of moment. And from that point onward provides us with many, many, many years of outperformance in the metals. And we've already had a couple. So it's a great time to be here, and it's going to get a lot better. It's really a good time to get in for those who don't have positions, but I'm not here to sell anybody. I'm just here to kind of frame the current context that we're in. So I hope that that's somewhat helpful, but I like that you brought that up.
I think it's very important. I think one of the critical things, and this goes back 30 years ago, 30 years ago, I looked at investing in the stock exchange. And somebody said to me, oh, don't do that, Charlie. 95% of the money in the stock exchange never comes out. And I thought, well, if it's so good, why don't people take their money out of the stock exchange and utilize it? Mm-hmm. Well, there's a very good reason for that. If you look at what's happening today, BlackRock have stopped people taking money out because they're in financial trouble. Now, I know from my own personal experience that when I've had money in gold and silver, which I have had now for 30 years.
Good for you.
When I've needed liquidity, I've been able to take my silver straight to a pawnbroker and liquidate it same day.
Yep.
And get physical cash.
Absolutely.
Now, this is the difference between stocks and shares and the stock market and gold and silver. I would also urge people that when you're buying gold and silver, only keep a very small amount in your own physical custody. I would use people like Noble Gold's safe place, mm-hmm. because what you don't want to do is get robbed.
Right.
And it's very important that you use common sense. Yes, have a small amount and keep it secure, and don't tell everyone. Don't tell anyone, because we live in a world of desperation right now, full of people that haven't got any money. And they'll be knocking at your door trying to rob you.
And that's going to get a lot worse. Yeah, I think that's going to get a lot worse. The desperation, the collapsing of the purchasing power of fiat. Obviously, we've seen a lot of it, but you're right, Charlie. Like, owning physical gold and silver puts your wealth in a format that's outside of the bank. It's outside of the dollar. It's outside of the system. There's no one on the other side of it. There's no debt. There's no collateral. There's no, credit facility. There's nothing, right? It's yours. And so I've got 1 ounce coins, this safe behind me, lots of gold and silver in there, but the minority of my metals holdings are with me. The vast majority is in our depository partners facility, which is fully insured, fully private, fully segregated. They only do segregated accounts, which means your metals are held in your account. We audit them, we photograph them, you can go and see them, you can touch them, you can withdraw them, you can sell them in a phone call, but they're in a legitimate third-party facility that has been around for decades that we trust extremely, a very high degree of confidence. So my wife and I both have accounts in the Texas facility. I was just there with all of my sales team in November. I've been selling into that facility for over 5 years now, and my account's been in there for 4. I had never been there until November, and it is insane. And I have more confidence now to do that. But having some at your disposal here is actually kind of an insurance plan. Yes, it's a great investment. The silver ounces that I own physically here have gone up a lot in value, but I look at it as like, I don't buy insurance for my car hoping that I ever need it, right? I don't want to get into a fender bender. I have it in case I do. So if the grid goes down, or the banks go down, or the dollar goes down, or something happens where I need to physically barter with a 1 ounce silver bar with my local farmer down the road, I can, right? I can put food on the table with this. And as you know, and with your experience, like, it's the most liquid thing in the world, right? We buy our clients' metals back like that. Boom, no questions asked. Just how much do you want to sell? Great, here's the price, bang, right? It take a bit of time. If it's in a vaulted account, we fetch it out of there, and once we have it back, we send you the proceeds for the sale, but it's really quick and it's really secure. So I look at the metals as their long-term buy and hold, kind of protect yourself over the course of the next several years, but it's also insurance that you need, but you hope you don't, right? Like most. So We're obviously seeing the premiums of insurance, like the actual cost of gold and silver is going up because risks all over the world are going up as well, as we've seen in the last weeks, months. Even this year, we've had quite a bit of geopolitical turbulence. So, so many reasons to own it now, right? The stars have really aligned for precious metals.
They have, and the way that I calculated, and this is just a practical example, is how much silver at today's price would I need to feed my family for a month?
Mm.
And that's how much, with a little bit of movement, that you need to keep with you personally, so that if everything collapsed, you've then got a month. Because I know from personal experience over the years, to liquidate gold or silver normally takes between 3 and 5 days if it's in a vault. That's just personal experience.
Right.
3 days for it to be
That's about right.
be done right, and then 5 days for me to get paid in total. And that's just practical. And I prefer that because if it takes 5 days, I've still got 25 days of leeway for the month.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
And this is just practical.
Yeah, and it doesn't take a lot of ounces to put you in the upper echelons of silver ownership, right? I think 100 ounces puts you in like the overall 10% ownership globally, right? I think 300 ounces puts you in the you know, the 5 to 3% ownership globally. There's really only an ounce above ground for every person, right? And a lot of people still don't have any of this stuff. One of the statistics that I like to reference, again, to give you the context, like we talked about stocks and gold at all-time highs together, is very reminiscent of a pre-08 type of scenario. At the end of a precious metals bull market, you can see the overall allocation of portfolios to precious metals in total, meaning all the gold and all the silver, all the mining shares, all the ETFs, you know, paper products, which we don't believe in, of course. We just do physical bullion. But the overall percentage of portfolios at the end of a precious metals bull market are somewhere between 3 and 5%. And they have in the past been as high as 10, which was in 1980, right? We came off the gold standard in 71, gold 25 times in 8 years, silver 37 times in that same time frame. But in 1980, 10% of all of global funds were allocated to gold. Right now, despite the big moves in gold and silver, half of 1% is all we have in American portfolios, which means to get to my 3 to 5, which historically is conservative, you have to 6 to 10 times the amount of money that's allocated to precious metals before we're even close to what would be considered an average allocation. So it's still very much underowned. It
is. And there are many different ways that people buy gold. Some people say, I'm going to put so much as a month aside. Some people say, I'm going to change my 401k. Some people are going to put in a lump sum out of the banking system. I chose to empty the bank and put everything I had from the bank into gold 5 years ago.
Good for you.
In 4 years, that money that I took out of the bank doubled in value.
Yep.
Whereas if I'd left it in the bank, I'd have probably get 3 or 4% if I was lucky. With inflation, it would have been 0 because inflation has gone through the roof.
Yep.
And then 8 months ago, I took half of that money and put it into silver. And that went up 3 times in that period of time.
Wonderful.
So it's put me, now some people say I'm lucky. Well, what I did do was I researched everything thoroughly. And I'm sharing my experience. Now, a lot of people say, well, I missed the boat. If you go through life with that mentality, you'll always miss the boat. Because
Absolutely.
I thought I'd missed the boat 5 years ago. And that was the wrong boat for me. I'm on a better boat.
Right. And what's that saying, Charlie? It's like, you know, the best time to plant a tree was 10 years ago. The next best time is right now. And
correct.
We all wish we could go back to the year 2000 and buy gold at $200-300, or 2008 at the all-time high then was $700. It tripled in 3 years to $2,000 in 2011, and then in 2015 it was $1,100. And when I started buying in 2017, it was $1,300, and now it's $5,200. And so, like, I see gold at 10 or 12,000 within the next year or two. And I obviously don't have a crystal ball, but I follow trends. I follow technical analysis extremely closely. And gold does have a tendency to lead the cycle. So it's kind of the mama of the two metals, right? It's the leader of the precious metals complex. And it does break out to new highs and make a lot of nominal kind of new all-time highs first. And actually that was kind of what you were talking about, right? In 2020, it got above 2,000 for the first time. And then it did this big lull sideways movement between 2020 and 2024. It traded between 1,600 and 2,000. Well, in 2024, it was around this time, it was in March, it finally cracked what was at that time the highest price for gold ever. That's not that long ago, 2 years ago. It broke 2,100 and quickly went into the 3,000s later that year. And now we're probably going to see something like 6 in the next little while. But in the second half of the precious metals cycle, or the bull market for gold and silver has like a lag effect and then an explosive kind of magnifier effect. And there's no exception to silver outperforming gold by a factor of 2 to 3 times in any precious metal cycle. So the 70s, the early 2000s, 2008 to 2011, even 2020 after the COVID money printing episode, we saw that gold jumped 40%, silver went up 250. So silver always actually does much better in terms of overall outperformance, but it reacts a little bit later. In terms of missing the boat and you being called lucky, I was called crazy, right? I was buying this stuff in 2017, and my father-in-law, my wife's dad is saying, "What are you, nuts? Like, why are you buying these shiny rocks? Are you insane?" Right? And I was like, "Well, you just wait. I've studied this like you have, Charlie. Like, what happens to fiat currencies? They all go to zero. What happens in a big economic collapse? Insurance has a huge premium, right?" So these things led me to buying it. And I might have been crazy, and I probably still am, but I'm not any luckier than you, right? We just saw this stuff kind of a few years before, and it's kind of like that Wayne Gretzky quote, like, you got to be where the puck is going, not where the puck is. You need to invest with where the world is going, not where the world is right now, to have some success. So there's a long way to go, and we can talk about price action and price targets and how quickly we could get there and all that stuff if it's of any interest. But really, I do see silver as still extremely cheap relative to gold. There's a few ways that you can measure that, like the gold to silver ratio. How many ounces of silver can be purchased for the price of 1 ounce of gold, right? Which as of today is still 60-ish to 1. Historically, the average is 15. So if we ever return to the average, and I have a feeling that we will, and that might not be more than a couple of years away from now, you can still have a 4 times outperformance, or with the same amount of money by buying silver today at a 60 to 1. If we go to a 15 to 1, you could exchange those 60 ounces for 4 ounces of gold. So it's not too late. You can still own tons of gold and tons of silver and have huge returns while also having unparalleled safety. And it's rare that you get the best outperformance on a technical basis from gold and silver while also having all the safety features, right? So there's a time and a place to own this stuff. It just happens to be that we're in that now, a couple of years in, but there's still many years to go. So, try not to be reactive and waiting for, like I said, the stock market to crash. That's when most money will pour in. I think your listeners are, like I said, right out of the gate, smarter than most. And because of that, we've had a lot of them come over to work with us, and we're happy to help them. But we still have a lot of time for people to make that rotation and to switch over and to protect themselves proactively rather than do it reactively in a year from now or two, right?
Yeah, and I think both you and I have done it for the same reasons, that you're a family man like I'm a family man, and the importance of being a protector and provider. That's what
Yes.
we are. We want our children to be in a better position than we were. And if you're, as a father, and me as a grandfather and a great grandfather, providing my family,
Congratulations.
and thank you,
So
but to
great.
provide them with a secure future in a world of uncertainty,
Yes.
shows signs of responsibility. And that we're living in a generation of people who are unresponsible for everything. They are dependent on the state. They are dependent on the system. But to be responsible in life and be able to say to your wife and family, we're secure.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, and it's not just gold and silver, right? It's everything else too. It's guns and ammo. It's gold and silver. It's food and water, right? I have, we live on a little homestead. We have our own chickens, our own gardens. We've got goats. We had sheep, but they're in the freezer now, right? We try to be somewhat self-sustainable, to the degree that we can. Of course, we still shop like normal people, but I have a year's worth of food for a family of 5. I have three children, my wife and I. A year's worth of my Patriot supply, right, in the shed out back. And so, if something happened, I think we have enough to do well, right? And that's your responsibility as a guy, as a man, as a father. So it's like gold and silver is one little part of the total equation. But to me, it's a really important one, right? It's like it's the idea of money, right? The idea of having a universal format of money that is recognized as money everywhere in the world for thousands of years. That's why gold and silver are the safest, simplest, best performing asset.
It's also good for your own personal confidence that when you've got something, a physical asset that you can see that's there to back you up and support you in life, it builds a confidence in you as a person to be able to do things because it's like a safety net.
Right.
And I would urge every single one of you, this is not financial advice. This is personal experience that both Michael and I have experienced. And if you go through life confident because you've got financial security over against going through life flat broke, when you go through life flat broke, you make stupid decisions in life. And I've done that, so I can tell you firsthand that when you don't have money, you take risks that you shouldn't take and you do things you shouldn't do. But when you've got yourself a nest egg, a safety net, which is easy enough to build, especially with silver, because you don't need a lot of money to buy silver.
And as I pointed out earlier, it doesn't take a lot of ounces to put you in the upper echelons of ownership,
Correct.
right? And I come from the camp of people that think that at some point, when, I can't tell you exactly how it goes down, I can't tell you, but I think at some point there'll be a massive transfer of wealth from the intangible market of stocks and bonds and financial instruments and derivatives and options and all the paper magical crap. The things that you can touch and put your hands on, so whether it's oil or gas, and of course it's been a crazy market the last little bit, but commodities in general, but the primary beneficiaries in this big transfer of wealth from a financial instrument dominated, a paper dominated market, let's say, for the last 20-30 years, we're going back to a physical commodity, tangible good based economy where the people who own those actual things you can put your hands on are going to do the best. And so you don't need a whole lot to be able to come out on the other side of this system shift or this system reset. And, is it a year away, 5 years away, 10 years away? I don't know. I'd like to think it's happening sooner rather than later. Whether it does or it doesn't, I'm already positioned. I can't do anything differently. Okay, all I can do is sit tight and be right and kind of wait for things to happen. And I'm, very intently, very attentive to all the aspects of the market. It's not just the metals, everything, because it's all kind of interconnected. But those who own physical gold and silver will actually benefit the most when we eventually do get this big shift.
And if you want to speak to Micah or any of the Noble team, the link is down below. It's now down to you to decide where you're going to put your money for the future in a very, very uncertain world. We're seeing governments, we're seeing the stock market, we're seeing everything that doesn't look quite right now. And now is the time to take responsibility for yourself and learn to look after yourself. But as I said, the link is down below for Noble Gold. And thank you, Micah, for sharing your expertise and experience with us. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, Charlie. I hope that I can come back, and there's a lot going on. So if anyone just wants to have a no pressure chat, that's what we do. We're not salespeople. We're investors. We walk the walk. We talk the talk. We own this stuff. I'm all in. I have been for almost a decade, working here for 5 years. So all I'm here to do is guide you through what we think is coming. And any questions, just call and ask for me or any of my great colleagues. So thanks for pointing that out. I appreciate you so much, Charlie, and hope we can connect again. Thanks so much.
These are the facts, not put out by mainstream media. If you want to know the truth, we put out the truth every single day, Monday to Friday. Saturdays and Sundays we spend with our families, as we should do. So if you want to know the truth, come to charlieward.com and see real news daily. And join the Insiders Club, which is live on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Noble Gold for those that are based in America and Canada. And for those in the UK and Europe, we have Orvesta. Get yours now at charlies.gold.